Hello, I'm Timothy Linsdow, a video producer, a Christian. Today I'm putting on my science cap. There's an astounding headlines from one of the science journals that scientists have witnessed a single-celled algae evolve into a multicellular organism. It is astounding. No one has ever observed evolution. Now, these scientists go on to say a number of things about it, and we're going to talk about that. These scientists have said they observed this in 50 weeks or less after introducing a predatory cell to this algae. And then the algae reacted, grew into another organism, and to defend itself. Well, survival assays show the evolved multicellular traits provide effective protection against predation. That's what these scientists say. Okay. There's always two sides to these things. And I, a lot of times, go to ICR, or the Institution of Creation Research, to see what they have to say about this article. And they get right into it. They make the point that scientists from that say they have witnessed a single-celled algae evolve into a multicellular organism. In reality, the experiment showed that nothing more than a crude clumping together of individual cells had occurred. A new multicellular organism was not created, nor was any real evolution observed, as Jeffrey Tompkins, PhD of ICR, wrote. And here's some of his argument. Now, one of the many hurdles in the grand story of molecules to man evolution is how life first transitioned from a single cell to multicellular organisms. Now, plants and animals are very complex, interlocking cells that form tissues and structures and whole bodies. Now, how could creatures like a bacteria or algae make the grand evolutionary hurdle into complex multicellular creatures? There is no evidence that this ever occurred in the fossil record, and we don't see that thing happening now, says Tompkins. Now, despite the futility of the evolutionary paradigm to explain real-world data, scientists who reject God will latch onto virtually any phenomena to put a strange twist on something to prove their paradigm. Now, such is the case with this. Now, this type of creature is this algae. It's a free swimmer, moves around in salt and fresh water, a little tail that whips around. Now, however, well known for its ability, it's also well known for its ability to form a gelatinous coat over its body, and then clump together to form other algae cells to form small clusters of cells called palmelloids. Forgive my pronunciation. But anyway, they form together in these clumps. And they have a name for the clumps. The clumping behavior is an adaptive response that arises as a result of its interaction with its environment. Now, get back to that a little bit. My question was, for an algae to recognize a predator in the first place, it would have to have built-in receptors to know it was being attacked. My question would be, how did they get that? Where did that come from? Wouldn't they have just been eaten up in the first place and not evolved? Where would they have gotten that? That's the question to always ask, is what came before and how did it get there? To me, it's a proof of design that a genius put it together. Genius beyond our comprehension. But anyway, now, these scientists reporting the recent evolution was in February. But in 2006, other scientists had already discovered that this algae would do this thing. The clustering would happen if they were being attacked and eaten. They would form this gelatinous coat and form. Now, in the current study, the same phenomenon was observed. Don't they read? This already had happened, and already the test had already been done. In this study, they had crossed it with diverse types of predators. And then the researchers watched it and they realized it was forming this coat, which means that these algae already had the ability to detect this predation and react to it. They already had it built into their DNA. It already was there. So, not only did the researchers make the extravagant claim that this is the latest researchers, if you will, extravagant claim that selection pressure of a predator's presence caused the alleged evolutionary process. But a newly evolved cellular creature was never observed, just the globs and the gelatinous coating and their reaction to this predator wanting to eat them. The fact that some isolates, they call them, expressed the trait permanently likely meant that a loss of information had occurred. Perhaps a mutation of a gene occurred in the adaptive response pathway, enabling them to cycle back and forth between clumping and free living. In the genetically diverse populations, this never happened. Typically, mutations like this do not allow such creatures to survive. And that's one of the ICR's big argument, that when you have these so-called adaptions, they're really mutations and they're negative. When you have such mutations in nature that are unusual, it usually weakens the species and they're immediately attacked and eaten. If you watch lions in documentaries, they are watching the land around them. And they're watching for the weak one. They see the weak one stumble. Bam, got their attention. Let's go, boys. It's actually usually ladies. Let's go knock this thing down. We got dinner. This is what happens in nature with mutations. It's just the way it is. Now, in the previous study, the 2006 study, the researchers had widely noted the adaptability of algae as dynamically to adapt their size and clumping traits to their environment was evidence that they could track environmental changes and respond appropriately. So Tompkins making that point. This is already built into the algae, the ability to detect its environment. It was already there. It was already in the DNA. It had to be, or the algae would have been wiped out. They wouldn't have been able to defend themselves. So it was already there. So some of the scientists at ICR documented are called continuous environmental tracking, a hallmark of built-in engineered adaptability. So here we go. These recent scientists saying they've seen evolution from what they call that had never been seen before. In 2006, this experiment had already been done. I think these researchers should go back to their colleges and ask for their money back. The way the new student loans are, they're probably in debt with it. This research had already been done in 2006. It showed that they already had the detection ability and the response was already built in, it already was there. So the researchers at ICR continue to debunk these myths that come up. And this is an easy one to debunk. And they make the point that research like this ought to be giving glory to the creator that engineered the pre-programmed adaptability of these creatures, not the illogic of evolutionary myth. There we go again. I've seen this numerous times. And I mean, they'll use words like could, possibly, somehow, and yet they have no answer about the somehow. The somehow is, there is no somehow. It's either in the creature or it isn't. Creatures, things, species, have already been given this in their DNA to react to their environment and to adjust to that environment. It is not evolution. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not something they learned. It's something that was already there. So, here we are. Tell you what, go check out Institution of Creation Research. Challenge them all you want. They're there to give you the answers, or at least direct you in the research that's been done. So I'm Timothy Linsdale. Like and comment on my video. Subscribe to my channel. Have a great day.